Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, "You Want to Approve Everything?" Okay. I recently got promoted to a management position. I manage a specialized team that operates with some degree of autonomy from the main part of the business, and have been expected to build the team's processes and procedures from the ground up. It's a new type of team which hasn't existed within my company before, nor I believe the industry at large. In order to ensure our team operates as efficiently as possible, I implemented a procedure whereby our clients are required to sign a document stating that they have reviewed all of their contracts and understand that by signing them, they are unable to make changes for change of mind reasons. It encourages them to make any changes they want before we proceed with their project, preventing unnecessary revisions and loss of time, money for both them and us. After implementing the procedure, I started to get constant requests for amendments to contracts despite the clients signing off on the policy. When I would refer to this policy in my refusal to approve the requests, the consultants liaising with the clients would circumvent me, approaching middle management who are not my supervisors but certainly above me in the hierarchy, who would then override me, despite this being a company-wide informal policy that I had chosen to formalize within my team. During one particularly heated meeting with one particularly demanding middle manager, he insisted that I stop making any decisions regarding these changes and instead channel everything through him for approval. Okay, no worries. Every request I received, no matter how big or small, I advised the consultant, "I'm so sorry, this has to go through Mr. Manager." At first, he was approving the changes and we were raising contract variations, and everything was moving smoothly. Then the requests started increasing. Clients who had made one request and received their revised documents were then immediately asking for more changes. In short, a steady drip feed of constant revisions snowballed into a very full inbox for Mr. Manager. Today, Mr. Manager requested a meeting with my direct manager to discuss the volume of requests he is receiving. Something tells me I'll be responsible for the approval of them again soon. The next one is titled, "Document Everything?" Sure, no problem. My now ex-boss had someone write up sexual harassment papers against him. He told some of us in the office to start documenting everything he was doing for a week because he was going to prove she was just over-exaggerating his jokes. It was like he watched an episode of The Office and got the bright idea to have a select few record his daily activities for a week, but he knew he was being documented, so obviously he was going to be on his best behavior. Nothing ever happened, but I knew he would go back to his old ways eventually. I myself was getting tired of having him comment on my appearance. If I had a buttoned-up shirt, he would say, "Do us a favor and let the girls breath. We're about empowerment here." And then lose it like some drunken redneck at a blue comedy tour. I recorded him longer than a week. I documented his behavior for 2 whole years. I knew if I came forward and requested to file paperwork on him, it would be another repeat. I would just be exaggerating, and it would be brushed under the rug. One day something happened during my shift that was his fault, missed delivery, but he put the blame on me. I come in the next day with my boss's boss waiting for me with a write-up. I have never had a write-up even during school. Not gonna lie, I became visibly upset. I was crying at 5:30 in the morning because I was just so tired of the BS. The boss sat and talked with me. After a while he point-blank just asked me, "Has he ever said anything or done anything inappropriate to you or to another coworker?" It was like he knew my boss was a jerk. Apparently they needed more than just verbal accusation to fire him, or so he said. He implied that if someone were to come forward with proof, it would be easier for the higher-ups to investigate. I told him I've been documenting his behavior and could provide the proof that they needed. They fired him almost immediately. He's not allowed on the property anymore. You know how gossip goes, but I heard that someone else came forward with a video and they had concerns over our boss just sitting in his car in between shifts and following his employees home. I believe it. One night way after his shift ended, he somehow got behind me and rode my car's butt to the gas station with his brights on. I was fully prepared to fight someone at a country gas station, but then he emerged laughing and said, "It was only a joke, I'm just messing." So, yeah. Ducking weirdo. The next one is titled, "You Want Me to Pour Cold Water to Melt the Ice?" Background: when I was 16 while working as a bagger in a grocery store, we got a new manager. We will call her Eliza. Eliza had a very "I'm right, you're wrong" attitude. She didn't care if she was in the wrong, but you better do what she told you until she changed her mind. If you spoke out against her, you would end up on her crap list and she would do her best to get you fired. Story: generally the bagger is the lowest position in a store. We collect carts from the lot, put away items, stock, clean, bag, and somehow we are always at fault. Queen Eliza. I had an early shift. Clocked in, started morning duties, and I heard on the loudspeaker, "Op, please come up to aisle 6, frozen aisle, seafood." I came in and Eliza gives me a smile and asks me to grab a bucket and scrub brush. I was going to pull up the bottom aluminum floor panels at the bottom of the freezer and melt the ice that accumulates around the fans. "It should take no longer than 30 minutes, she said. "Make sure you use cold water since we don't want the temperature sensors to turn on. Anything over 42°F, set them off and corporate would call." I say, "Let me make sure I have this right. You would like me to fill the bucket with cold water and pour it on the ice in the freezer while the freezer is at 19 degrees Fahrenheit? Stares at me like I'm stupid. I inform her it isn't going to work. The water will freeze and just create a mound of ice. I suggest using hot or practically boiling water while watching the temperature. Eliza gives me a firm no and the threat of writing me up if I disobey. The start of MC begins. I've already figured that no matter what I do I'm likely to be in trouble. To get the water I had to fill it in the meat department sink. The meat manager asked what I was up to and I told the story with all the details. Meat manager is scratching his head and he heads over to call Eliza. She confirms and I hear a bit of arguing. Meat manager comes back, gives me a smile and says to do as I was told. He'd back me up. So for the next hour I must have put about 200 gallons of cold water onto the freezer fan. I switched from a 2 gallon bucket to a 5 gallon. I stopped and moved to the next fan each time the compartment was to the brim with ice. I got 4 compartments done before she came to check on me. Instant rage. Eliza went from white to red real quick. It was also the first time I've heard a manager cuss. "What the duck is this? How the duck could you screw up something so simple?" said Eliza. I said, "I did exactly what you told me to. I took buckets of cold water and poured them on the ice around the fans." Right as she said she was going to write me up, the meat manager came over after hearing her cussing. The meat manager saw the ice-filled compartments and mentioned that I should have used hot water. This sent Eliza over the edge. "Up to my office now. You're being written up." The meat manager did what he said he'd do. He stuck up for me. Meat manager mentioned that he double-checked with her what she wanted me to do and I was complying with her instructions. She went silent for a moment and it was like her head was going to pop off. She just took a deep breath and muttered out, "Fix it," and walked away. The meat manager gave me an extended industrial hose hooked up to the hot water. The water in meat department can get up to 130 degrees F to kill bacteria. The ice was gone in 15 minutes and since apparently the freezer temperature measured as a whole it never went above 34 degrees F. Eliza avoids me for over a week afterward. I knew I was on her crap list and for the next 8 months she tried to write me up for the most pitiful reasons. I eventually was given a written warning for leaving 9 minutes early with approval from the front-end manager that was friends with Eliza. At that point I knew I would get fired for crap eventually and I quit without my 2 weeks. The next one is titled, "If you blame it on the phone system one more time I'm cancelling our support contract." We had a customer in a very old hotel with very old hardware, phone system, etc. It was classy, clean, the building was well taken care of, but the owners didn't think technology needed to be upgraded. We installed software knowing their hardware was nearing the end of its life. The owners knew this too, but they just wanted us to make it happen. Everything ran poorly of course, and was very unreliable. One constant problem was that the phone system would stop sending call data to be imported and charged to the guests. The problem was simple, the phone system just needed a reboot. Every time we told them this the general manager would rant and tell us how crappy our service is, what a waste of money it is, and that we obviously aren't looking into the problem because we always tell them the same thing. Also, rebooting the ancient Hitachi phone system always fixed the problem. So one day after the GM goes on a particularly nasty rant with one of our technicians, she fires off a long and detailed email with an accounting of every time we told her that the problem was the phone system and refused to help her. She sends it to management, the CEO, and the owners of her own company. In the conclusion of her email, she states that if we ever again tell her that the phone system is the reason for the issue with the phone system, she will cancel the support contract and look for another software vendor. Within a couple weeks we get another call from her about the phone system not exporting call data. Before we respond with the solution, I remind everyone that she has demanded that we not tell her it's the phone system. So we comply. Every time she calls about this issue we give her a canned response stating that we are unable to detect any problems on our side and that she should contact a local IT professional to diagnose the problem. This goes on for months until we get an angry email from one of the hotel owners. This was before everyone had a cell phone and they're likely missing out on thousands of dollars a month in phone revenue. The owner is furious with us and demands that we offer solutions immediately or he'll seek legal advice. I decide I'll respond. I apologize for the trouble he's experiencing and let him know that we're eager to help him but have been forbidden to mention the cause of the issue by the general manager. I attach the previous nasty email from her, which he also got but probably didn't bother to read, and a copy of every support ticket related to this issue with the final note always being, customer states that rebooting the phone system has resolved this issue. Dozens of these tickets were included. The next day the owner responds with a pretty sincere apology. Among other things, he says he tried rebooting the phone system and it worked and that he'll speak with the general manager about it. We never heard from that general manager again. I have no idea if she got fired, but she cost them thousands of dollars. The next one is titled, Electrical Engineering 101. I was reminiscing with some old university and lifelong friends the other day about our first year together, 50 years ago now. Amongst other things, we remembered the MC that the whole class managed to exploit as the year went by. We were studying physics. In our first year we were obliged to take an add-on class in another subject, presumably because it would be good for us. It only carried a minimal credit towards our degree, so nobody took it particularly seriously. But we still had to do it and attendance or otherwise was noted. The majority of us picked electrical engineering, because rumors from past students were that at least the lab work was fun, and you got to play with things that went bang very loudly. Most of them weren't supposed to, of course. But it's amazing how much pleasure can be had from miswiring a 440V three-phase supply, or mixing up the prefixes milli and mega. Each week this course included a 4-hour afternoon lab session, involving a load of different experiments. As the year went by, everybody rotated through the full set of experiments, one per week. As a minor incentive to at least try, one rule was that as soon as you had completed your experiment, and got that model answer, you were free to leave and take the rest of the afternoon off. We were left largely unsupervised, unless the flames got too high, so as long as we turned in a paper with the right answer nobody much cared how we got there. One of the experiments was a literal black box experiment. You were given a brick-sized wooden box, painted black, with 3 electrical connections on the top. The instructions were, using any equipment in the lab, determine the contents of the box and draw its circuit diagram. Well, we had access to every shape of meter, and every flavor of power source, and detectors for all sorts of rays and fields, and a screwdriver. The malicious compliance. Everybody, when their turn came round, used the screwdriver to open the box, then drew the contents and screwed the lid back on. The fallout? For that experiment, everybody got full marks, and 3 hours 55 minutes free time. The next one is titled, Oh, You Want a Man? Okay. I work in a field that is dominated by men. In fact, in my office of 30-ish people, only 3 of us are female. My direct boss, one of our QA reps, and myself. My job is a mix of technical support and customer service in a niche industry, and I have worked at my company for nearly 15 years doing the same job, small company and not a lot of room to move as we tend to stick around. We deal with clients worldwide, and my department consists of 6 people. Generally, we have 2 to 3 on phones at any given time. 1 on chat, and the other 2 working on different queues. At least 2 to 3 times a week I am mistaken by clients as the secretary and asked to be transferred to tech support. My standard response is, I am part of tech support, what can I help you with today? And they are happy to work with me. Occasionally, maybe once every couple of years, someone will tell me they want to talk to a male or more senior rep. My boss is fine with me accommodating these requests as long as we don't have a queue. On this particular day, we had me and our newest team member who had been with the company maybe a year at this point. He's now been with the company over 5 years. 2 of our team members had the day off, and it was later in the day, so the third phone person had finished their shift and gone home. It was busy and we had a bit of a queue, and the new guy had a pretty difficult issue that he had been on the call for about 30 minutes. It was also when our management had their off-site, so we literally had no management in the office. I answer a call. Me, thank you for calling company support. This is Op. Can I get your name or account number? Client, can you transfer me to support? Me, I am in support. How can I help you today? Client, transfer me to a man. Women don't work in support. Me, I'm sorry sir, all our other representatives are on calls right now. How can I assist you today? Client hangs up. I take the next 2 calls, no issue. The third call is the same caller. Me, thank you for calling company support. This is Op. Can I get your name or account number? Client, can you transfer me to support? Me, I am in support. The client hangs up before I can offer to assist him again. I take another 2 calls, all the meanwhile helping the new guy where I can, as he's now about an hour on the call. Next call, yup, the same guy. Me, thank you for calling company support. This is Op. Can I get your name or account number? Client, can you transfer me to support? Me, I am in support. How can I help you today? Client, transfer me to a man. Women don't work in support. Me, I'm sorry sir, all our other representatives are on calls right now. Client, I am not working with a woman. I want your manager. Me, I'm sorry, the manager is not in her office at this time. Client, no, I want a male manager. Me, I'm sorry. All the managers are away from their desks in a meeting at this time. I can request that one call you back when they are available. The client hangs up. At this point the queue is clear and I continue to help the new guy with his issue. 5 minutes later I get a call. It's the same guy. Me, thank you for calling company support. This is Op. Can I get your name or account number? Client, can you transfer me to support? Me, I am in support. How can I help you today? Client hangs up immediately. He calls back and I answer again. We have caller ID so I can see it's the same guy. Me, thank you for calling company support. This is Op. Can I get your name or account number? He hangs up. This repeats about 6 times before I think he finally gave up. The new guy and I are close to fixing his client's issue. Maybe 10 minutes have passed since the guy stopped calling when he calls back. Me, thank you for calling company support. This is Op. Can I get your name or account number? Client, is there a male available yet? The new guy fixes the issue and hangs up, offers to take the call. Me, yes, one moment while I transfer you to another rep. Client, finally. I transfer the call and the new guy answers. The client's issue is rather difficult and after 5 minutes he asks for a more senior rep as the new guy doesn't know what he's doing. Client's words, not mine. The new guy looks at me and mouths, he wants a senior rep, to which I nod and he transfers the call back to me. Me, thank you for calling company support. This is Op. Can I get your name or account number? Client, I asked for a senior rep, not a female. Me, sir, I am the senior rep available right now. I've been with the company for over 10 years. Obviously, I know what I'm doing or I wouldn't still work here. The client reluctantly allows me to assist him and it took me less than 15 minutes to get him going again, as it was an issue we knew about with the version released when I started, and as the new guy never dealt with the older versions he was still learning the legacy protocols. To the client's credit, they have never asked me to talk to a male again and more often than not asked to talk to the female in support when they call. The last one is titled, Adhere to the SLA? You've got it. Edit, SLA equals Service Level Agreement, basically a commitment to complete the job within a given period of time. Context, background, in the late 2000s, I was working at an aerospace defense contractor. I was in a group that was managing subcontracts and we had to abide by the Truth in Negotiation Act (TINA), which required subcontracts over $650,000 at that time to be run through either a cost analysis report (CAR) for military-only parts, or a price analysis report (PAR) if it's a commercial product being used in a military application. PARS also required an engineering analysis to determine a multiplier for the changes needed for the commercial unit to be used for the military. Regardless of type, the analyses were requested by the buyers before they made their way to my group. We had 90 days for cost analyses and 30 days for the price analyses. At that point I'd been in the role for a year and a half and was really good at cranking out price analyses in 2 to 3 days. I had a good relationship with the engineering team, and honestly, it was an older plane, so there weren't too many changes that needed to be made. Compliance. One day, I was having lunch at my desk and browsing ESPN. One of the buyers I worked with, let's call her Vicky, was walking by and made some snarky remark about browsing the internet at work, but I ignored her because it was obvious I was having lunch. Turns out Vicky was upset that I had a couple of her PARS that I received earlier in the week and complained to my manager because I was misusing company time and resources and that I needed to be sure to adhere to the SLA. Now my manager at the time was freaking awesome. She called me in and asked about the complaint. I showed her that my average turnaround time was 3 to 5 days for PARS. In response, she just looked at me with a smirk and said, "Just make sure you abide by the SLA and hide your screens better." The following day, I brought donuts for the engineering team and asked them to provide cover for my plan. They were more than happy to provide it. I got back to my desk that day, cleared my whiteboard and started tracking all of the analyses I had in my queue, approximately 10 to 15 at any given time. I tracked them by name, date received, due date, and current status. Next to all of Vicky's requests, either in work or awaiting engineering analysis. We were an engineering-driven company and Vicky had been there for a while, so she wasn't dumb enough to complain to the engineering lead about the engineering analyses. When she asked the engineers directly, they confirmed that yes, that analysis was in their queue, so she had no choice but to wait. So while I was flying through all of my other requests, hers were stuck in purgatory until day 30, and that continued until I moved to a new role about a year later. Icing on the cake. My performance metrics were based on the quality and quantity of analyses completed with no turnaround time waiting. One of Vicky's performance metrics were based on on-time contract closeouts, so when she finally got my report, she had to scramble to get the rest of her contract done. I also got some privacy screens for my monitors so she couldn't complain about my misuse of company resources anymore. Eat a fat one, Vicky. Thanks for listening.